serious, people who have been on the deep web, what's the scariest thing you found? I used to take pictures of drugs for a local Silk Road dealer. I was over his house once and he was testing out some onion links and he suddenly said, "Oh my god. Look at this." It was a site where a guy in America would duck the corpses of dead animals and post his experiences with graphic pictures and descriptions. If you scrolled a bit further you saw he moved on to humans. I walked away from the computer pretty quickly. Well, when I visited, I mostly visited the hacking cybersecurity part. Interesting to see how people go about hacking various things and really educational. Yes, there are people buying, selling 0 days etc. But it's mostly social engineering. Anyway, the scariest was a hacking advertising a service where he was willing to upload child porn onto someone's computer and report him to the police as a form of taking someone out. Well, actually the scariest part was discovering that there were at least 2 people in the chat room that I was in discussing about kernel security who had used that service. I decided to stick to more regular forums afterwards. Hitman site. No idea if it was a scam. I'd be willing to bet they just take the money and run. But I noped out quick anyway. It was like you pay them the equivalent of $5,000 upfront in Bitcoin and they kill someone of your choosing and cover it up and you pay the rest later. Scary as duck. While randomly clicking around Tor one night, I found a site with a riddle and a text box to enter an answer. After figuring it out, it took me to another page that had a message to decode and another text box. Basically every page was a puzzle and got harder every time. I was 15 and not very smart with those kinds of things, so I found a forum where other people had discovered the site and were talking about it. Apparently on the final page it just displayed a date and a quote from Alice in Wonderland. I believe it was just a site made to be some sort of entertainment for very experienced decoders and programmers, but there was speculation that it was a hacker recruiting site similar to Cicada 3301. Either way, it creeped me out a lot. A friend of mine went digging and found a video of someone cutting a face from someone off his head and used it as a mask. Those are the type of videos that make me sick as hell. Saw a site from the Hidden Wiki that was about abducting and experimenting on the homeless. Have been told it's a common fake. Someone showed me this website once where it was like a stream feed aggregation on these pages. And there were hundreds of pages and each page had probably 50 streams on it. They were all feeds from do-it-yourself security cameras that people have in their homes that back up to the cloud. So crazy to see. These people probably have no idea. The dude who can hack you and put horrible it on your computer so you can go to prison. I wouldn't annoy that dude. That stuff has happened to a number of old people in my town. The police wrote a letter saying that if that happens to you, report it, they will understand. When I was at school in Colorado, we would buy Xanax, ecstasy, and whatever else off the deep web all the time. But once we ran into a vendor selling people without arms and legs. I'm guessing they were meant to be sex slaves. But who knows if that's all they were being used for. I guess I never really went on to anything too dark, if you will. But I did find a black market site. Was shocked on how cheap it was to buy weapons and drugs in the States. Although I'll never know if the sites I was on were legit or not. A friend of mine claims he was snooping around where he didn't belong. Black market forums and hacking forums. When someone private messaged him basically saying, "I've looked into you because I see you in here a lot and I know you're not here to buy or use the services because you're just a kid. I don't mind, but others will and you haven't protected yourself well enough to be here. Get off if you know what's good for you." This would have me disconnecting my computer, throwing it in the bin and going to sleep with the lights on. Was on a pretty disreputable porn site. Had just wandered over there because they had full-length hentai with non-con sexual violence and no blur. Sue me. Yeah, girl has non-con fantasies. At one point I thought I clicked a link of that nature. It had everything I had mentioned up there. Non-con, sexual violence, etc. And the tags stated as much. Know which tag was missing? Hentai. Full live action video of a girl getting raped. It haunts me to this day. Both because I did not need to see that, It's a fantasy. Not something I would wish on my worst enemy, much less some poor anonymous woman. And I'm always scared it put me on some NSA list. I remember a long time ago there was a guy online that was trying to buy large quantities of bedbugs. When questioned why he wanted them, he basically said that he wanted to try to breed them to be resistant to normal methods of killing them while simultaneously breeding in a weakness that only he knew. This way he could release them in people's houses and then force them to pay him to get rid of the bedbugs, since no one else would be able to kill them. My own password. Found a chan that had a link to a website that when you put in an email address, it would show you the password in plain text if that email address had been typed in one of my old, now closed, emails. And there it was. Just a blank page with my email address and password on it. Sitting right there for anybody to find. Real answer here. The scariest thing I saw was stolen credit cards or other identity theft items. Stuff that made it very easy to assume another person's identity. Things like child porn, torture videos, are generally either fake stories or so hidden away that you wouldn't just accidentally stumble upon it. There are lots of easily available drugs, logins to websites, guns and weapons, though I'm confident most of those are honeypots. The Last Jedi leak movie script. I thought it was fake because it seemed too bad and used characters poorly. Then when it finally made to cinemas a year later, I couldn't believe it was real. I wandered around in the dark stuff about 10 years ago. Worst I saw was basically the Super Adventure Club from South Park. A bunch of rich people on a forum discussing the best ways to abduct children from different parts of the world. The different kinds of kids they owned. How to keep them hidden and healthy. How young is too young for different sex acts. Etc. Made me depressed for a few months. And I was pretty ducked up for a few years after. I removed Tor from my computer that day and haven't installed it since. I'm happier not knowing how awful humanity can be. Someone in my town was selling a kid's virginity. I don't know how real it was, but I was asking for trouble roaming around random sites. I stumbled on a discussion about how to hide that you have AIDS in order to hook up with people and spread it to them.